I thought you should know. This isn't your typical love story. In fact, it was never meant to be anything more than what it is, a love letter to him. Mister, what had I hoped to gain from telling him my side of the story? Closure. Once I had finished the first draft, I emailed him a copy. I got no response, which is odd because I just knew his lawyer or manager or someone would contact me and threaten me not to publish. I heard nothing from him. It took me 6 months to write this damn thing the first time, and it was definitely a blow to my ego when he didn't read it. It wasn't fully finished when I first sent it to him, as it lacked an ending until 2023, 5 years after the original love letter was written. I knew it was time to close a major chapter in my life. I needed to complete this project. Since he never took the time to read it, I decided to share it with you. Not because I want to brag about being with someone like him, but to share what I went through in hopes that I would help someone else who may be caught up in the same type of whirlwind romance as I had been. Maybe you'll also understand who I was and how I have changed because of him. Now you can step into his shoes to become the world-famous, handsome, wealthy, and talented man who took me on a journey of self-healing and taught me how to love myself. I write this in first and second person, so it will seem as if I'm talking to you, Mister. Brace yourself for a raw, uncut love story and allow me to be vulnerable. Can you put yourself in my shoes, or maybe his? Vulnerable. The quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. This isn't the first time I've tried to write this book. The last time, I wrote 4 chapters but stopped because you came back into my life, which meant there was more to the story. I have no expectations at this point. All I know is that in my mind, this will be all the closure I need to finally let you go. Seems easy for you to get things out of your head through music. Our story kept replaying repeatedly in my mind until I finally wrote it all down. Reliving all the moments we shared was hard. If I hadn't gone on this journey with you, I wouldn't have healed so much of myself, and for that, I want to say thank you. It truly changed my life. I don't know where this is going, and I don't know what we're calling this. This is how it started. Well, for me anyway. I moved to Atlanta in 2021 from North Georgia and sublet an apartment from a girl at work just so I could stop driving down into the city every weekend. At that time, I lived with my granny because I had left an abusive marriage in Miami, but I won't go into too much of that detail unless that's something you want to know more about. My first stripping job in Atlanta was at the Masters, which is now called Onyx. It was a good starter club for me. The reason I say it was a good starter club was because it was a low-key spot and not many athletes or entertainers visited. The ones that did always gravitated towards me. At that time, I didn't really understand why they liked me so much. My self-esteem was low back then. I was naive to the fact that I was a unicorn in a big city. White girls with fat asses were just coming into style. I learned how to shake my ass from a girl named Lyric. I wonder where she is these days. Jermaine Dupri came to the Masters one time, and if I recall correctly, he was banned after that visit because he expected the club to pay for his bill. That's what the waitress told me. Rumors, right? Who knows how that story really went, but it did put a sour taste in my mouth for him. That's why it's funny that we would later become lovers. One slow night in 2002, I left work early with another girl who wasn't having such a good night either. She took me to a popular restaurant, R. Thomas, and this is where our paths had crossed. He came in with a large entourage and sat across the room from where we were sitting. How exciting, I thought. I can't say I was starstruck because at this point I had already hung out with a few celebrities, but I did ask the waiter if you were cool enough to approach. He said no and laughed. I asked why, and he said you were rude and didn't tip well. I don't know about the tipping part, but I could see why you'd be rude. I've seen some crazy shit fans do to get the attention of a celebrity. Some years passed and R. Thomas became one of my go-to spots after work. That place used to be popping on the weekends. I went there so much that I didn't have to wait in those long-ass lines like everyone else. Every time I introduced friends and clients to Art Thomas, I would always tell them the story about how I ended up there one night after work and saw you. It made the place seem magical when I told the story. Fast forward, in 2005, I went on a date with a guy I met while at work. Day. Side note, if it wasn't for this man, I wouldn't know how to, well, you know, hashtag good kisser. I took him to Art Thomas for the first time, and of course, I told the story of seeing you there. I don't think that is something a guy wants to hear on a date, but we both know I talk about things sometimes that aren't very well thought out. Halfway through our meal, I excused myself to the restroom. When I returned, you and your bodyguard, Elijah, were sitting at the table next to ours. You were closer to the aisle, which happened to be directly behind where I was sitting. I came around the corner of the kitchen and saw you sitting there. You were halfway facing Elijah, talking. I walked down the step, and you turned and looked at me. I know you don't remember this at all, but I even remember what I was wearing. A white wife beater, diesel jeans, and Dolce & Gabbana flip-flops with my hair pulled up. I've always been a tomboy. The funny thing was, you turned toward me, thinking I was going to approach you. At least that is what it looked like to me. Because when I turned and sat down with my date, I heard you say, "What the fuck? She's with that guy?" But you didn't say it out loud. I felt your energy shift, and then I heard your voice in my head. Now this is the point where everything takes a wild turn. But don't let this be the moment you put the book down. You're about to uncover the depths of this madness and witness just how outlandishly bizarre this story becomes. Keep reading, and you too will have doubts about whether this was real or not.